Welcome back to the Unsheltered channel. My name is Rogan Freewolf, and today we are on the second chapter of our audiobook series for The Tombs of Anak. So, get your joint or beer and light up with me. Chapter 2. The darkness was settling quickly now. They hurried back the way they had come, stumbling over loose rocks and groping their way along. "What do you make of it, Doc?" Bill asked. "Well," mused Dr. Cooper, "what the old goat herd had to say seems to fit all the other local traditions." "You mean all the tales and rumors about a ghost?" Leela asked. "Harafa," said Jay, and he didn't like the sound of it. "But we have tangible evidence of something," Dr. Cooper added. "The loss of the goat herd's leg, our missing man, and that cut rope. Not to mention that, singing." "But a ghost?" Jeff asked. Dr. Cooper thoughtfully reviewed what they had learned from the goat herd. "The darkest of shadows, a cruel, tyrannical ghost who eats men, towers to the heavens, sings one melody consistently enough for the goat herd to learn it, who inhabits the earth under the dig, who fills the local natives with terror, who is revered and worshipped as a deity." "Now that's some kind of spook," said Bill. They had reached the valley floor just as a golden, glowing moon peeked over the hills and flooded the valley with amber. The hot air lay very still between the hills. The quietness of the night was unsettling. They had to pass through the unearthed Philistine temple to reach camp, and in the pale moonlight, the crumbling walls were starkly lit snags casting long, zigzagging shadows across the sand. Dagon was hideous and ghostly in his light, his face in its own shadow, except for his long limestone nose and his bulging, menacing eyes. Jay and Leela could imagine he was watching their every move. They were moving through the temple ruins silently, in single file, when suddenly, without a word spoken, they could all feel it. Something was wrong. Dr. Cooper quietly froze in his tracks, drew his .357, and held it ready at his side, listening intently. The others halted and stood still. Bill gripped his rifle in readiness. When some pebbles dribbled down a wall, Dr. Cooper crouched slightly and raised his gun. More pebbles rolled to the earth, and Dr. Cooper waved his children back with his hand. He was looking toward Dagon. Dagon seemed to be moving, or was it just the way his shadow seemed to sway, undulates, and grow larger? Jeff stood in front of Jay and Leela, protecting them with his body against whatever it was. Then they all saw it. It was dark enough to be Dagon's shadow, but it slowly stepped out from behind Dagon, as if Dagon's shadow had broken off and become a living thing, walking like a man. Dr. Cooper aimed his gun, and Bill threw his rifle bolt into place with a clack that broke the silence. Jay and Leela leapt for cover behind the remnant of a wall. The shadow looked enormous and towered over Dr. Cooper like a tall tree. There was a very intense moment of silence, but the same thought was coursing through every person's mind. "Harafa?" Leela gasped. "Dr. Jacob Cooper?" asked the shadow in a booming lion's growl of a voice. "From America?" Dr. Cooper didn't lower his gun, and neither did Bill. The archaeologist beckoned with his hand and said, "Step out into the light where we can see you. Identify yourself." The shadow obeyed and stepped into the radiance of the rising moon. It was a very large man, dressed in dirty tan fatigues and a hat with a wide, drooping brim. He was carrying a very formidable-looking rifle, had an ammunition belt across his barrel-sized chest, and looked like some kind of terrorist. "You were expecting a ghost?" the man asked. Then his big chest quaked with a chuckle. "A visit from Harafa?" The chuckle stopped abruptly, and the man became very stern. "Had I been the ghost, you would certainly all be dead by now. You should have fired at me when you had the chance." "Who are you?" Dr. Cooper asked impatiently. "The name is Talmai Ben Arba, of Gath," the man said, offering his gloved hand. Dr. Cooper thought for a moment, then lowered his gun, shook the big hand, and asked, "And just what is your business here?" "Well, I would say, Doctor, that you've taken quite a task upon yourself. A task to which you may not be equal. I have been watching your struggles here for some time now, and I think you need another resource. I'm a native of the area, Doctor. I know this place, its moods, its dangers, its superstitions, and its people. I have come to offer my services." "Well, I hope you won't misunderstand," Dr. Cooper said slowly and cautiously, "but the businessmen who hired us already sent us one man to help spur us on, and now he's lost and possibly dead. I can't be responsible for any more tag-alongs." The big man's answer was gruff. Mr. Jerry Frayden was, as you say, a tag-along, and he got exactly what he asked for in his foolishness. As for Talmai Ben Arba, he can look after himself. He added with a glint in his eyes, "As we all must do, isn't that true, Doctor? I understand you have received no assurance of protection for assistance from the government and your not-so-generous employers. Mr. Pippin and Mr. Andrews have offered you no favors either, in equipment or manpower. You, your 2 men, and your 2 children are left here to fend for yourselves, yes? And to perform miracles. I'm sure you know that too." Ben Arba threw his head back and roared out a laugh that carried into the hills. "Ah, yes, Dr. Cooper, the treasure that Mr. Pippin is convinced is here. You, a Christian man who cares nothing for riches, are now expected to produce a treasure while all you seek is knowledge. Such is the life in the world of business, yes?" Dr. Cooper called behind him, "Jeff, Jay, Leela, bring our climbing gear and some lights." The 3 went into action. Dr. Cooper turned back to Talmai Ben Arba. "You've gone to a lot of trouble to find out about us and our reasons for being here. Such information can easily be found by someone who knows the right places to look, the right people to ask. So what are you after? You must know I have no money to pay you." Ben Arba's voice dropped in pitch, and he spoke as if telling a secret. "I believe in the treasure too, Dr. Cooper. Pippin and Andrews may think they own you, but they do not own me, and neither do they own the ground we stand on. Whatever riches may be found will go to the man who finds them. And I intend to be that man. We can help each other. I offer you my knowledge and prowess in exchange for a fair portion of the riches you may find. You will gain knowledge, I will become rich." Dr. Cooper sighed and looked at the ground. "Greed," he said mournfully. "I think I've seen about all I can stand." Ben Arba had no time for little sermons. "What is your answer, Doctor?" "Mr. Ben Arba, you're asking for a share of riches that may not even exist. And as for any knowledge and prowess you think you can offer me, you've shown me nothing so far, nor have you shown me why I would even need them." Just then, one lone, far-away voice, like that of a ghostly wolf, began to cry out, a quiet but mournful tune, a slow and steady succession of notes that rose and fell like a funeral dirge. Dr. Cooper and Ben Arba froze as the sound reached their ears. Bill held his rifle tightly and listened, watching warily on every side. Jeff, Jay, and Leela became statues by the supply hut when the sound came to them. Jay and Leela looked at Jeff, and he nodded silently as if to say, "Yeah, that's what we heard." Dr. Cooper looked at Bill, and Bill spoke very quietly. "Yeah, that's it. That's the sound. But last time, it was deep in the ground. This time it was not underground, but echoing all around them, growing louder, more and more eerie, and even closer. As the moon continued to rise, and its light turned from dull amber to cold silver, that strange ghost-like voice continued to wail and lament from somewhere in the dark hills, until the melody gave way to a moment of death-like stillness. Then, as if on cue, a high and ringing tenor voice from somewhere in the night answered back with a variation of the same song. That voice was joined by another, and then with more volume, another voice, and then another, and still another joined in the song, carrying it from one end of the valley to the other in waves of anguish, sorrow, even fear. Within a few chilling, hour-long minutes, the voices had become an eerie chorus, singing a lament that filled the valley like a cold wind. The melody was familiar by now, frighteningly familiar. "The Song of Harafa," said Ben Arba, looking this way and that, listening to the many voices now filling the night air. "Their mighty ghost has called to them, and now they are answering. They are trying to please him." "Who are they?" Dr. Cooper asked, listening raptly. "His followers, the Yarim." Dr. Cooper translated the word. "The fearful?" Ben Arba nodded, his face very grim, and his eyes reflecting the silver moonlight. "He is the fearsome, and so they are the fearful." Then he added, "It is the night of sacrifice and worship, but their song has a desperate sound tonight. They are singing for their very lives." "So you're familiar with Harafa?" The big man looked down at Dr. Cooper as a smile appeared on his grisly face. "Some of my knowledge and prowess," he said gloatingly. "Then please continue." Ben Arba's eyes returned to the surrounding hills in wonderment and awe. "They are the people of these hills, a very isolated group of shepherds, goatherds, and traders, with age-old superstitions and a hideous religion that worships Harafa. This is their land. These are their hills, and their sacred places. I don't imagine they, or their god, have ever been threatened by outsiders like us before. In their eyes, Harafa must be very angry, and I can promise you, no good can come of it." "How many would you say?" "Perhaps 300 to 400 altogether, with half of that number being armed and dangerous. But they have no modern firearms, that I know of. Their religion forbids it." "Can we negotiate with them?" Ben Arba gave Dr. Cooper a look that condemned him for even asking such a question. "What about Harafa? Does he exist in any form we'll have to deal with?" Ben Arba was impressed with that question. "You are not a skeptic, Doctor?" "I'm a believer in the God of Israel, in his heavenly messengers, and in evil spirits as well." Ben Arba said, still looking toward the surrounding hills. "There is something out there, and I do believe in it." Then he chuckled. "But I am also a believer in Talmai Ben Arba. He can deal with anyone or anything that comes his way." "Even a ghost?" Ben Arba sneered. "Let him show himself, and then I'll decide. We can all decide." Then he added, which may very well happen if we remain here and continue to tread on Harafa's ground. As the eerie music continued to echo around them, Jay and Leela and Jeff returned from the supply hut with ropes, climbing gear, and lights. Dr. Cooper beckoned for them to approach. "This is the rest of the team," he told Ben Arba. Some quick introductions were exchanged, and then Dr. Cooper pressed on to urgent business. "If you wish to further demonstrate what use you might be, you can appease all these Yarim so we can go about rescuing Jerry. Regardless of them or their god, we have to go down after him." The Yarim," said Ben Arba in disgust. "Let them live up to their name." With a swift movement, he pointed his rifle into the air and fired 2 rounds. The sound of the blasts rang the valley like a bell and broke the chorus of voices into startled disarray. Ben Arba threw his head back and let out a fierce roar that cut the song short, as if with a blade. Now there was a deathly silence. "Back into the hills with you," he shouted. And the Cooper party could hear the fading sounds of scrambling footsteps high in the rocks. For a moment, no one could think of a word to say. Ben Arba was glad for that. It made him feel he had impressed them. "Another sample of my prowess," he informed Dr. Cooper. "And now for another sample of my knowledge. You should think twice before you enter the shaft. The same will happen to you as happened to your pitiful tag-along." Before anyone could ask what he was talking about, Ben Arba stepped over to the deep, mysterious hole that had swallowed up Jerry Frayden and shined his powerful flashlight into its bottomless depths. "It's a ventilation shaft," he explained. "A perfect trap for a full-sized man. You would be squeezed in, unable to move, unable to defend yourself, if something should attack you." "How did you know what it was?" Jay asked. The big man examined Jay and Leela for the first time and asked Dr. Cooper, "Why do you bring children to such a place as this?" "They are quite skilled and competent," Dr. Cooper retorted, "and Jay's question is a fair one." The dark eyes glimmered with a strange fierceness as Ben Arba answered, "I will tell you only what you need to know, when you need to know it, and not before. I have to be sure you will always need me." Then he looked at Jay and Leela again and said, "Doctor, they are small." Jay piped up, "Sure, and that might be a good thing." He went to the edge of the hole and sized it up. "I'm small, Tamai Ben Arba, but I'm a fighter, and I wouldn't get stuck in there." Ben Arba got a very strange look of glee in his eye as he turned to Dr. Cooper. Yes, send him. He will have more freedom to squirm and fight in the shaft. Once he reaches the bottom, he can look out for any dangers and warn you." Dr. Cooper was about to object, but he held his peace and considered the idea carefully. Jay and Leela stood at the edge of the pit and shined their lights into it. It was a tight little hole. Dr. Cooper asked Bill and Jeff, "What was it Jerry said right before you lost him?" "Something about a room down there," said Bill. "And then?" "Something must have grabbed him," said Jeff. "And it was big. We could feel the weight on the rope." Dr. Cooper joined Jay and Leela at the edge of the shaft and looked down into the deep, dark well, and then asked them, "Well, what do you think?" "It might be okay if you send a lantern down first," said Jay. "That way I can see what's below me." Bill was ready to try it. He prepared a propane lantern on a long rope and started lowering it down slowly. They all watched it descend foot by foot, clunking against the walls of the shaft occasionally, and casting a ring of light around itself. When Bill had let out 40 feet of line, he announced, "This is where we lost Jerry." The lantern was a tiny point of light with a halo around it, swinging slowly back and forth, clunking against the wall, and then the other. Bill let out more line, and the halo disappeared. "There's the room he mentioned," said Dr. Cooper. 10 more feet, the line went slack. "We've hit bottom," Bill reported. Dr. Cooper lay on the ground with his head over the hole, listening. Jay did the same. There was no sound from below. Bill had a harness and rope ready for Jay. "Don't make any unnecessary sound," Dr. Cooper instructed. "If there's any sign of trouble, don't waste any time. Holler and we'll pull you up. If things look all right, signal us with your light." Jay was ready, but something else had to happen first. Without anyone having to say anything, Jay, Leela, Dr. Cooper, Bill, and Jeff joined hands around the mouth of the pit and prayed, as they always did when they felt an adventure beginning. Without the Lord's constant protection, no attempt such as this would ever be made by any of them. That was Cooper expedition policy. Dr. Cooper finished the prayer by saying simply, "Dear Father, protect Jay, my son. Protect us all. In Jesus' name, Amen." "Amen," they all said. Jay was ready. Bill and Jeff manned the winch and started letting the rope out as he stepped backward and into the hole. Finding a foothold, then another, slipping out of one, refinding it, dropping down into the virtual tube of rock. Ben Arba was certainly right about the tightness of this hole. Jay could spread his elbows and touch either side of the shaft easily. If a person never had claustrophobia before, this would be an ideal place to get it, he thought. The dry limestone walls kept passing by as the air started getting musty. Jay could smell old, earthy smells coming up from beneath him, carried on a steady, cool upward draft. He kept his light pointed below him, warily looking for anything that could alert him of possible danger. So far, there was nothing to see but the sheer walls of the shaft, and nothing to hear but the gritty sounds of his feet against the rocks. 20 feet down, then 30, then 40. His pulse quickened. Below him, the narrow space of the walls, the shaft opened into a dark, cavernous space. He could see the lantern resting on the rocky floor far below. It did look like some kind of room down there. He signaled for a stop with his light, then curled his head down to have a look. He knew he had to be quiet, but he could hardly contain a cry of excitement. The lantern resting on the floor was illuminating a chamber about 10 feet wide, and it was hard to say how long. It just stretched out into darkness in both directions. The walls were smooth, as was the floor, now littered with sand and rocks that had fallen from the shaft, perhaps broken loose by Jerry Frayden's struggle. Then Jay saw something on the far side of the passage, a large, smooth slab of stone with very odd writing on it of some kind. Perhaps his father would be able to read it. Okay, he thought. Now for the next step. He gave another signal with his light and swung his body over the opening as the crew above slowly lowered him into the room. As he hung there in space, slowly rotating and descending, he remembered very vividly Bill's words. "This is where we lost Jerry." His feet came to rest on the cool stone floor, right next to the lantern. The rope went slack and then tightened up again. They were keeping a firm hold on him, for which he was grateful. "Be quiet now," he thought to himself. "Don't breathe too loudly." He listened for a moment, except for the mournful sighing of air moving up through the shaft. There was no sound louder than the beating of his heart. He forced himself to look all around. He had to know what was in the room, good or bad, like it or not. His search ended abruptly as his wide eyes fixed on a single object on the stone floor, a shoe torn open and tossed aside. Then his eyes caught the sight of another object, just at the edge of the lantern's circle of light. It was a tool, a small pick. It was Jerry Fraden's. Now he was scared. That is the end of Chapter 2. Join us in the next video for Chapter 3. Till then, my friends, stay safe. Farewell.